are a lot of traps that you can fall into as a new Etsy seller that will keep you from making any progress at all. Meaning that all of your hard work, designing, researching, listing, might not pay off at all if you fall into making the mistakes that we're going to talk about a little bit later in this video. Now, on the flip side, there is an amazing opportunity on Etsy, and we chat a lot on this channel about building an Etsy shop and connecting it with a print-on-demand company, which is a company that prints your items for you, t-shirts, mugs, tote bags, tumblers, print the items for you and ship them out for you, and you never have to touch them. That's how I've grown my business. Whether you want an extra $1,000 a month or to build a six-figure business, the opportunity on Etsy, it's simply undeniable. But it can be difficult. Listing consistently over time, week after week, month after month, day in and day out, thinking about, I gotta get the design done, I've gotta get it listed. It is a lot of work. And of course, you're waiting around a lot, waiting around to see if that new listing is going to start getting some views. But I can promise you this, it is so worth it. Let me tell you why. If you're new here, hi, I'm Simply Shauna. I'm here on YouTube helping teachers, nurses, retirees, stay-at-home moms, 9-to-5ers build Etsy shops. That was, you probably heard that cha-ching, that was offer up. I have the cha-chings off on my Etsy store. So I'm here on YouTube helping people build Etsy shops so they can achieve their financial goals the way I have. But it wasn't always like this. I used to be a 4th grade teacher and I was burnt out. The demands were increasing and our pay was not. I felt helpless to the non-existent raises coming my way. I was tutoring every day after school and not getting home until after dark, trying to just make ends meet. And I was at a place where there could be no more growth. I had no more time to trade for money. So really, I kind of was at a place where I had no hope of improving the quality of my life financially at that point. Then I stumbled across my first YouTube video talking about Etsy and print-on-demand, and I could be a business owner? How is that even possible? But I took action. I built that shop. Then I realized that I could keep it growing and scale it. And then I realized that not only could I supplement my income, I could replace my income, and then to sky's the limit. And I would no longer be trading my time for money. But rewinding to that day that I opened my Etsy shop, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I had no idea what was on the other side of that consistent work. What was on the other side of all of those hundreds of listings that weren't going anywhere, those hundreds of designs that just weren't something that people wanted to buy because I wasn't good at it yet. I didn't realize how much I could gain from consistently plugging along and going through those steps. What was on the other side of all of that work that I had to persevere through was better than what I ever thought was possible when I started the shop. So I worry that as a new Etsy seller, or maybe an Etsy seller that hasn't grabbed the traction that you want to grab yet, maybe you are like I was and don't realize just what is on the other side of all of that work, on the other side of that learning curve. But I do know what's on the other side of all that. For 9 months, I worked in my shop month after month, and I was averaging pennies per hour for my time. At the end of that 9-month mark, I had just over 800 orders in my shop in total. And then I headed into my 10th month, and I grew exponentially. I haven't seen a month with less than $3,000 profit since then. In fact, most months at this point are somewhere between $6,000 and over $30,000 profit. This video was actually inspired by a comment that was left over on a collaborative channel I've started. I will leave a link to it down below if you'd be interested in that. It's called No Friend Left Behind. And my friends and I started that channel because I've had to remind them many times of what's on the other side of all this work. They're all in very different places. My one friend just got his 3rd sale. My best friend Shay is now over that 100th mark. She's got over 100 sales. And my friend Laneta is over 1,000 sales, and she can't wait to get her 2,000th sale. That channel is going to be all about their growth this year. You're going to watch them grow. If that's something you'd be interested in, I will leave it linked down below. As a matter of fact, this video was inspired by a comment on a video that was released over there on that channel. And in this comment, the subscriber, lets me know that they are going to give this 6 months. And I thought, oh no, I need to do a video on this, because at that 6-month mark, do you remember what I said? How long I said it took me to grab traction? It took me 9 months, and I could have easily stopped at 6 months. I would have been making around 2 pennies per hour at that 6-month mark. Maybe I was up at like 4 pennies per hour at that time, but I could have easily given it up. And then the trajectory that my life has taken, I wouldn't be here at all. Right now it's 12:45 p.m. and I would be at school and thinking about all of the tutor students I had to go see as soon as 3 o'clock hit that I would be bouncing around to. And on top of that, I'd be stressed out about money. And did you know that on average, it takes 2 to 3 years to build a business where you're starting to reap the benefits and you're actually making a profit? But in my experience, most Etsy sellers, most people that are consistent in their Etsy shops are making profits within the first year. They've built their shops to a place where they're making some consistent profits within that first year. As a matter of fact, if you're watching this video and you are making consistent profits at this time, head down into the comments. Let us know at what month you felt that you were at of consistent work. Whenever you started that consistent work, how many months later did you feel like, oh, okay, I'm getting sales every single week and I'm making some money now? And did you also know that you do not have to be a 6-figure seller to make life-changing money on Etsy? Maybe that's not your jam. Maybe you are just thinking, I'd love to be able to cover my mortgage payment every month. Or I'd love to be able to travel every summer and for my Etsy profits to cover those travel expenses. Think about it like this for a second. If you built your shop to a place where you were consistently making 15 sales a day, not orders, but sales. So it might be 10 orders and maybe a couple of those orders had 2 items each in it, 15 sales. And you made an average of $8 profit per item. You would be making $3,360 per month at that point. And that might not be quit your job, quit your 9-to-5 type money, but it probably would make most of our lives so much easier. So the reason I am telling you all this is because if you are a new Etsy seller or perhaps a seller looking for different results than what you've gotten so far, it is important to remember that this whole Etsy thing, it does have a learning curve. The rate of growth is probably not going to be a steady line upward for you. If you are aggressively learning everything you can and you're applying all of that knowledge to your shop and you're going to get better and better at applying that and you're being consistent, you are eventually going to have points where your growth quickly spikes and then it will fall, but not as low as it was maybe before the spike happened. And you'll climb to an even higher spike in a few months. This is why it seems so impossible to be successful in the beginning, but then all of a sudden you are doing better than maybe you even thought was possible. I heard someone once speak about, and I think it's so true, that we overestimate what we can see happen in 1 year, the growth we could see or what we can accomplish. Maybe in this case, the profits you might see from your Etsy shop in 1 year, but we grossly underestimate what's possible in 5 years. Definitely true for myself. Thought I was going to get a lot more traction in my Etsy shop in those first 9 months, but at this point, the growth is amazing and I see so much potential. So I never thought in 3 years' time I'd be where I am, and who knows where I could be in 5 years. Who knows where you could be in 5 years? And not only is it worth it because of the financial gains, but you can make an impact in your customers' lives. That was something I didn't really think about when I first got started, but it is a very rewarding part of getting into specific niches and different things. So before I knew anything about Etsy, several years ago. I didn't have an Etsy shop, had no idea about any of that. I went onto Etsy and I purchased an item from Kittl Minimalist. And if you've watched any Etsy content or you do any research on E-Rank, you would know that they're like the top shop on Etsy. They sell jewelry. But by the time I opened my Etsy shop and started hearing content and looking at research and seeing how awesome this shop was and how well they were doing on Etsy, the name of that shop was already burned into my heart. I knew the name of that shop. I purchased a very meaningful item from that shop where I could have a loved one's handwriting on my bracelet. And it was a loved one who was taken much too early. Okay, I had to pause the camera there for a second. Hopefully I am not messing my makeup up. This bracelet gave me so much comfort and helped me grieve and through the healing process. In your shop, you might have the perfect thing for that cancer survivor to wear and to express themselves through. Or you might have the perfect item for that graduate to wear and to feel special in. And if you haven't already, you will probably most certainly help a gift giver gift someone with the perfect item that makes them feel so special and so cared for. Once you figure out how to get items sold, how to make things that people want to buy, those things, they make people feel good. They're going to bring smiles to people's faces. Or a whole nother direction on that is maybe your customer reaches out to you because they bought some couples items from you and they just wound up breaking up. Their boyfriend broke up with them. And it's already gone in production. Maybe it's already been shipped. But you're now in a position to, if you have an abundance in your life, to do something so small for someone, but to say, hey, you know what? I'm really sorry. No problem. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to refund you that. The shirts are already on their way. Maybe you can donate them. I had someone reach out to me one time because she bought shirts for an event and her husband got mad and said, well, you shouldn't have bought those and I'm not wearing them. She reached out to me. She seemed pretty upset. And I said, sure, I can refund you for this. Or I can make the shirts different so that your husband's not involved and you could still wear matching shirts with the other people you were going to wear shirts with. And she was just beyond happy that I came up with a new way and redesigned some of these designs so that it would still work for her group. You might also be in a position where someone reaches out and says, hey, we just had this tragic loss and now we're not doing this event anymore. And this has happened to me a couple times. And in that message to me, they seemed pretty broken. And again, if you have an abundance in your life, if you've been able to get to a place where you are making some extra income with your Etsy shop, it is pretty easy just to say, hey, no problem, I refunded you this. And you might even go the extra mile and have some flowers delivered to their house. A random act of kindness, something so unexpected from a stranger, when someone's going through a really hard time, that is powerful for them. And being an Etsy shop owner, you could be in the position to interact with a lot of people and make little differences in these people's lives and impact them in a positive way. The point I'm making here is simply that in addition to the financial gains you can have by building your Etsy shop, you are also in a position to impact people in a special way, depending on the niches that you're in. Perhaps something that's going to be really meaningful to someone and help them through something, or just the fact that you're going to be interacting and touching just for the briefest moment with most people, but every once in a while you'll have an insight on someone's life because of all of those transactions you're making with people, and you could do something a little nice for them when you've been made aware that maybe they just really need something to go their way that day. We're going to get into those mistakes you don't want to be making here in just a moment. But first, I feel like it's important to note here that this Etsy thing, it's real. And it can be a reality for you, just as it is for me, and like it is for so many of the other YouTubers that you are probably also listening to. It is going to be difficult, and the likelihood of you having to list a whole bunch of designs that don't go anywhere, that's pretty likely. Actually, it's probable. And if you've got 60 or 70 listings up and you don't have a sale yet, well, it's kind of normal. But if you are willing to do what it takes, if you are willing to work on yourself and on those skills that you need, then you can do it. Even if others think you can't do it, even if you're conflicted and you're like, yeah, Shauna, this sounds great, but I don't know if I can do it. No, even you can do it. This can be a reality for you. It's just going to take some work. So just expect that work. The traps or mistakes you don't want to fall into. The first thing that you have to do is that you have to change the way you are thinking about Etsy. A lot of people who are just getting started with their shops, they will blame Etsy for everything that happens. Maybe they feel Etsy isn't showing their listings, that the algorithm is against them. Instead of acknowledging that, honestly, it probably has something to do with your designs or how you're packaging your designs, which means like your mock-up photos, your pricing, and your SEO, your title and your tags. Now, that can be a really hard pill to swallow, especially if you're putting a ton of work into your designs and maybe at the moment you're doing the best that you can do. But it's important to know, and maybe really it's not just important to know, it's empowering to know that the Etsy algorithm does not have an opinion on your designs. It is not making judgments on what you're listing. Everything on Etsy is response-based, meaning that when Etsy shows your designs to people, it's reacting to how the customers on Etsy are interacting with your listing. So that is to say, the algorithm does not have opinions, it has data. And it relies on that data to figure out if your listing is a good listing. Are customers enjoying it? Are they likely to make a purchase if it is shown to enough potential customers? If the answer is yes, the listing will show up in search results more often, giving people an opportunity to click on it, that's when you get to see that someone viewed it, and it shows up in your stats as a view. And then it's going to start showing up in search results for more customers, similar to the first one that clicked on it. And if the algorithm is getting data that is showing that your listing is not a good listing for the shoppers on Etsy, it's going to stop showing your listing in search results. And then you really don't have a chance to get any eyeballs or views on it. No one's going to click it because it's not getting shown to them anymore. If most of your listings are not getting views, it just means you've got work to do. You've got some things to figure out. And I've been there. And it's figure outable. So really the Etsy system, the algorithm, is just prioritizing listings that are more likely to sell. So your design and your overall listing has to be very competitive with what is already available in that niche in order to get itself in a place where Etsy wants to continue showing it to people. So maybe you've been struggling with some feelings lately and feeling deflated and not working as hard because you're like, well, why should I bother? Because Etsy's just not showing my stuff anyway. So today we're going to go ahead and we're going to rule that out. Once you start ruling things like that out, things that are just kind of guesses and things that are completely out of your control, then real growth is going to start happening for you. That will really force you to start looking at yourself and your designs and what it is you're doing. Then that helps you say, well, okay, if it's not these things that are out of my control, well, then it's me, or it's something I'm doing, or something that I could be doing better. And I just need to practice and learn how to make designs that people are enjoying more so that I can get them to purchase them. After we swallow that pill, it becomes a lot easier because the concept here is pretty easy, right? The hard part is what comes next. Well, how do I learn how to do this better? How do I do it better? I certainly remember feeling that way. How do I do this better? But that's part of the process. That's part of the learning and the practicing, and why it often takes so many listings before you really start getting some traction. There are very few people that are actually making consistent sales in their shops within the first few months that they've opened it. Most of us have so many skills to learn when we first open our shops that it's going to take time and effort to start getting all of that squared away and start getting it right. And that's okay. That's just what it's like when you're starting something new. Let me take a second to remind you that in the beginning of the video, I shared that it took me 9 months to start getting traction. And I was working for pennies per hour for 9 entire months. And that's just because I had to fumble my way through the process. I was a complete beginner at all things Etsy. I didn't know how to design or research. I didn't know how to do any of it. And it took that long for me to start figuring out how to design things that people actually wanted to purchase. And there just isn't really any shortcuts on Etsy. We just really do have to do the work in order to get the success. There are strategies that can help us maybe get there a little faster, but no strategy or no secret is going to take away the learning phase, take away the fact that you have to learn how to make designs that people want to buy. And it's worth mentioning here that running ads on those designs and those listings that are things that people don't actually want to buy or actually what the customer is looking for, those ads are not going to land you any sales. But they will give you very interesting data because you will see just how many impressions that you had. So how many times you showed up in your search results and someone scrolled right past it. And it will be very eye-opening because you'll be able to go, oh, Etsy did show it. They showed it this many times and no one clicked on it. I was just looking at my data this morning and I was hunting out lots of designs I have like that right now that just got scrolled right past, lots of impressions, but no sales. And I was trying to learn from that. If you are finding value from this content, I am going to take a second to invite you to go down and subscribe to the channel. That way, YouTube will start recommending to you more content like this. And I'm going to ask you to boop the like button if you are enjoying this. That way, I know to make more content like it. Another thing that's really important for your success and your longevity as an Etsy seller is to acknowledge where you are in the process of building your Etsy shop. Building a shop on Etsy is like anything else in life. It comes with a learning curve. When you learn to tie your shoe, it seemed impossible. Loop-de-loop, bunny ears, just a big old knot a bunch of times when we were learning to tie our shoes. And there is no option in this analogy for just switching to Velcro. That is not an Etsy reality. When you learned to drive, you didn't just hop in a car and take off. You had to learn how to use the brake. You had to learn how to parallel park. You had to learn how to back up. And if we are being honest, I would say my learning curve for Etsy was more symbolic of learning how to drive a stick shift than an automatic. We could also compare this to learning an instrument. That takes hours and hours and hours and days and days and days and months and months and months of consistent work, dedication to become good at it. Etsy is easier than that, so that's good news. But some people can pick up an instrument and get the hang of it much faster, while some of us have to work harder at it and be more persistent and persevere. But we can both get there, which is why you shouldn't compare yourself to someone else's growth. Etsy is just like that, and it can be really discouraging to see listing after listing not getting traction, or even as an established shop to see your sales take a drop from one month to the next, or when compared to the same month from last year to see it has dropped. That can be discouraging, but realizing just exactly where you are in the process can help. So if people are just scrolling by your designs right now, then that means that, well, you're still trying to learn and improve. And there are some things that you need to fix. And if you focus your energy on moving through that learning curve, your designs are going to get better, your listings are going to get better, and your results, they are going to improve over time. All of us who have successful Etsy shops, we are all rooting for you. We are rooting for you because we know what is on the other side of that learning curve. I have an entire playlist dedicated to helping you learn how to design, but the one that's about to pop up is the one that I really think you should watch next. But not until after that tip from Tucker. Tucker, take it away!